William Eugene Bufalino Sr. was born in 1918 and died in 1990. He was an attorney who represented the International Brotherhood of Teamsters from 1947 until 1971. He defended Teamsters President Jimmy Hoffa on numerous occasions, and he is generally thought to be the Italian-American Mafia's legal hand, being one of the more well-known mob lawyers, as they were known, such as Frank Rogano. It is thought that Bufalino's second name wasn't actually Bufalino, and was instead gifted to him by Russell Bufalino, the Bufalino crime family boss, in order to increase his rep. Whereas some people say the two were actually cousins, and others say that it's just a coincidence that they shared a last name. He was born in Pennsylvania and studied priesthood before making a switch to law. After a service in World War II as a lieutenant, he returned to the US to practice law again in 1947. Bufalino was associated with Jimmy Hoffa for a quarter of a century. When the Teamsters were charged with racketeering, Bufalino was the man called to defend the union. He took part in 7 trials for the Teamsters, winning 5 of them. Bufalino was also a Teamsters official, serving for 20 years as the president of the local 985 in Detroit. When the Senate investigated 985, they called it a collection agency for gangster-dominated operators. And Bufalino tried and failed to sue the likes of Robert F. Kennedy for damaging his reputation by accusing him of being connected to the mafia. Bufalino claimed that when the Kennedys were chasing evidence to put Hoffa behind bars, Hoffa wanted something as leverage to keep the Kennedys at bay, so he told Bufalino to dig dirt on Robert F. Kennedy, the Attorney General at the time, and Bufalino had a man put a wiretap in Marilyn Monroe's home, where he claims to have audio evidence of Kennedy's and Monroe's affair, including a conversation between the two where Kennedy was angry at Monroe for keeping a diary, since intimate information could be leaked from it. Bufalino claimed that Hoffa never intended to use the tapes, as that would be a low thing to do, but wanted leverage to keep the Attorney General off his back. Jimmy Hoffa famously disappeared in 1975. There were numerous suspects, and Bufalino's claims are that Hoffa was killed by the CIA because of his knowledge of their plan to assassinate Cuban President Fidel Castro, working with the mafia to do so. Only 48 hours after Hoffa's disappearance, Bill Bufalino's daughter's wedding took place, with many of those suspected to be involved in Hoffa's disappearance in attendance. During Hoffa's last trial, it seemed that Bufalino was on course for another famous win, until one of the Teamsters' own business agents, Edward Partin, a man who worked closely with Hoffa, suddenly switched sides and provided evidence that Hoffa had carried out jury tampering, which is what eventually sent Hoffa to jail. Bufalino, Hoffa and their team of lawyers were unprepared for this surprise witness, and did not know how much corruption Partin had evidence of and what he could prove. Because of this, the defense team and Hoffa, usually so calm and confident in the courtroom, became erratic and paranoid, to the extent that Hoffa started to have shouting matches with his own lawyers. They tried every tactic in the book to get Hoffa off the hook, throwing accusations at everyone, including accusing Edward Partin of being a substance abuser and filing for a mistrial after claiming that the jury had overheard the defense attorney loudly argue a legal point, and the jurors had overheard this, which was not permitted, of course, since the jury at the time was in the jury room and the defense team was in the courthouse. The incident, though, did not happen, and it only served to highlight how desperate Hoffa's team was. When Hoffa eventually went down, Bufalino was one of many lawyers who visited him to counsel on appeals processes. In the book I Heard You Paint Houses, Frank Sheeran claims Bufalino became too frustrated with Hoffa's constant berating of him, and eventually walked out, saying, "No, I'm not fired, I resign," and never going back to revisit Hoffa ever again, as far as Sheeran knew. After this incident, it's thought that Bufalino started to slide towards Frank Fitzsimmons, the man who Hoffa once put in charge of the Teamsters and who was now his rival for the big job when Hoffa got out. Bill Bufalino died of leukemia in 1990. He will be a significant supporting character in Martin Scorsese's mob movie. One of the 3 main timelines sees mobsters Frank Sheeran and Russell Bufalino drive to his daughter's wedding. In the draft script of the movie, he features briefly in the beginning of the film, helping main character Sheeran get off a theft charge when Sheeran was still a trucker and not affiliated with the mafia. And then when the movie moves to Hoffa's court battles, he features significantly. Pretty much any scene involving legal trouble will have Bufalino around somewhere. He's being played by Ray Romano in The Irishman, of Everybody Loves Raymond and The Big Sick fame. Thanks for watching.